Welcome to another episode of Jets Afterburners. I'm your host, New York Jets fan 16. Well, that wasn't my name at birth, but I humbly welcome to the show. Let me just give this the proper introduction. A defensive end who played NFL defensive end who played 11 seasons in the National Football League. Selected in the 6th round of the 1989 NFL Draft. He played 8 seasons for our New York Jets, in which 6 he was the starter. He additionally played for the Denver Broncos. We're going to get to that. And San Francisco 49ers, accumulating a total of 40 and a half sacks in 155 games. With that, we humbly welcome Marvin Washington.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's kind of good to talk about the old days, and I'm glad you reached out to me. I have no problem coming on and talking about my experience with the Jets.
I have to start off we were talking backstage. You were one of my all-time favorite Jets. I mean, I became a Jet fan. I'm going to say by trade, like in 88, but my memory started like in 90, 91, and most fondly 92, where you were the absolute best player. I mean, every time I saw a quarterback get knocked down, I'm like, that's Marvin Washington.
No, it was a fun time. That was about the time I figured the game out, because the game was moving really fast for me in 89, 90, and then in 91 it kind of slowed down and I became an NFL player. So it was a good time.
Well, you know what goes unnoticed for many Jet fans is the 1989 draft class. There we had Jeff Lageman, Dennis Byrd, God rest his soul, Joe Mott, and Tony Martin. Again, how can you forget Tony Martin? He was traded from the Jets to Miami, where he had a field day against the Jets as a fan, being thrown to by Dan Marino and whatnot. Stephen Moore, another one who played safety with the Cleveland Browns, correct?
Yeah. If you look at that draft, you're not going to say, okay, Super Bowls and all pros and Pro Bowls, but there are some Pro Bowls in there. But if you look at the longevity of the draft and seeing how many years guys played, I think that draft can match up with any draft that the Jets have ever had as far as years of longevity of guys being in the league. You're talking double figure years for me, Jeff, Tony Martin. Dennis would have hit it, but then Stephen Moore. People don't remember Stephen Moore from Ole Miss. He played 8 or 9 years, so we got a lot of years. That's the thing that I am most proud of.
As a Jet fan, I remember 89 was the tail end of, I believe, Joe Walton, the head coach there, and it introduced us to a high-powering offensive mind in Bruce Coslett, who brought with him Pete Carroll, who many know now. But again, even way before his days with the Jets and USC, Seattle, he was our defensive coordinator. What were your fondest memories of being coached by Pete Carroll?
You know what? Pete hasn't changed in 30-something years. The biggest thing was energy, his enthusiasm for the game. And he had you prepared. He was one of the best defense coordinators that I've been around as far as having you prepared and then the right place to make plays. And he came from Minnesota under Floyd Peters with that cover 2 defense, and he brought it to us with the cover 2 and the 8-man front. And Monty Kiffin was our linebacking coach that first year. A lot of people don't remember that. So we had a very good defensive staff and a very good defense, I believe. Despite our record, I will put our defense up to anybody, because we had some pretty good defenses in the early 90s and in the middle of that deal with Pete Carroll.
Yes, and I just remember that energy like you were speaking about when he finally took over for the team in 94. But before we get to that point, just wanted to pick your brain on when you came to the league, 89, 90. I believe the Jets were 6-10, but then 91, something special happened. There was, just these wins coming out of nowhere where you saw, just from the ground up, the Jets were built. And they made it to the playoffs against Houston. But before then, a week prior, everything leading up to that Miami Dolphins game at Joe Robbie Stadium, can you just relive through that moment of the ups and downs? And it's already hard to win as an away team, but how everything just came together that day.
You know what? I can remember the week before, I believe we had lost to New England, and Jeff Logum and I went to the sports bar in the city, and people watching the Giants. It was packed in there, and we were upstairs, and somebody lost. I believe it might have been Houston or somebody lost, and we were still alive, and we controlled our own fate, and all we had to do was go down to Miami to win. And I can remember Mark Clayton pretty much guaranteeing that they were going to win that game. But, we knew that we matched up well with Miami. We always played them well, and it was a rivalry. So it didn't matter where we were going to play them at. We just knew that we had to win to get in. My memories of that game is, I believe, it was a 3rd and 6 or something to get in field goal position. Mm-hmm. And we were in the shotgun, and we did a screen pass or an option or a lateral to Freeman.
Yes,
who was still, an efficient NFL back. And he was our 3rd down back, and he got us a 1st down. And then we kicked the field goal to win the game or to go into overtime. No, to win the game, to tie.
To tie, yeah. That was a wild
one. Yeah, that was a wild one. But out and just remember after the game, it was great because we were building, and I just felt like, the next year we were going to take off, but the NFL, anything can happen.
Yeah, before we go into 92, that drive was wild. That just to enter into the overtime, where O'Brien threw a perfect ball to Rob Moore to set Raul Allegre again in the field goal range, and to win that game for a Jet fan that hasn't seen the playoffs ever. For me, at that point, when Raul hit it and we won, dude, it was a party in my house, man. And again, we were just saying, this is it. This is where we're going to take off. We're winning the Super Bowl at that point. The following week, I believe we played against the Houston Oilers.
And lost 17-10, and we had the ball 3 times within the 10-yard, inside the 5-yard line. I think we had it in there 3 or 4 times, and one time we had 4 shots inside the 1 or 3 shots inside the 1. We couldn't get it in there, because they were running that run and shoot high-powered offense, right. And we kind of contained them. I just felt like if we had scored 20 points, we were going to win the game, but we didn't get that. We didn't get to that mark.
Now, going into that 92 season, I just felt like, all right, you know what? Ken O'Brien coming off of a great season of 91, but then there was a holdout, and it gave the opportunity to. I'm going to show it again because he is one of the original number 8, Browning Nagel. That's my guy, and it gave an opportunity to him to become the starter. And unfortunately, things didn't go well that season, but it was a breakout year for you. You had 8.5 sacks that year.
Yeah, going into the 90, coming out fall camp, we went undefeated during the preseason, which doesn't mean much, but it shows that we were competing. I felt we had a very good defense. Yeah. I felt like the offense was ready to take that next step, and they held Kenny out, which in hindsight was a mistake. I like Browning on a personal level, but he wasn't ready to be an NFL quarterback, a starting NFL quarterback. And maybe that it hurt his development as an NFL player, and it definitely hurt the teams, because I felt if we would have had Kenny O'Brien as quarterback, I think we would have made some noise and beat some of the teams. But we got injury rack too. We lost Logman. We lost Dennis Byrd. We lost a lot of guys to injury too, which is no excuse because all teams do. But I felt coming out of training camp that we were a playoff team. And then we lost to Atlanta, and they played man and cover 2, and Browning kind of ate them up. And then the next week we went and played against Pittsburgh and Dick LeBeau, and he got exotic. And I don't know if we had over 200 yards of total offense. And then once that happened, teams started to see how you play Browning, and the rest is what it was.
Well, that defense was stacked. I mean, it had yourself there, Kyle Clifton, Mo Lewis, James Hasty, Brian Washington, the late great Dennis Berg, and Mike Brim, Bobby Houston, Scott Mercero. Again, from the outside perspectives of non-Jet fans, they don't appreciate that. But let me tell you, and I'll speak from all Jet fans, we appreciated that defense so much.
Thank you. I can say I always felt like, do we have any 10s, all pro superstars? Ah, and I think BW could have made the Pro Bowl, and so should Hasty, and they did later in their career. But I think we had guys that were 8s and 9s across the board. I didn't think that we had any weakness, but wears down on the defense when you're stopping them, and you're coming off 3 and outs on the offense, and you kind of break. But we played really good defense, led by Pete Carroll. It was a tough year, but it was a fun year in a lot of ways. And I think, was that 92 or 91 where Pete gave the kicker to Miami the choke sign?
92.
That was 92. Yeah.
92. I remember that one where right before that happened, Browning and Eagle threw an amazing bomb to Rob Moore for a touchdown. The following drive, Pete Stoyanovich went down, missed it. And I remember watching this game. I kid you not. It was in the kitchen on a small black and white television set. And I see him do this. And I'm looking, I'm like, what does that mean? And, my brother is like, it's over. I'm like, what do you wait? He's like, he choked. That's it. We won the game. We got another one. We can tally it up. And then, of course, in Dan Marino fashion, he got given another chance. But I'm going to stay with that year because there was an inspirational win coming off of, the heels of the unfortunate event that occurred between Dennis Byrd and Scott Mercereau. The following week, the New York Jets played Buffalo, the Buffalo Bills, which were way before the New England Patriots, way before anyone could even fathom of powerhouse teams in the AFC. And to beat them at home, that was a no-no. That never happened. Here comes the New York Jets, underdogs, heavily underdogs. How did you guys pull that off? It made me so prideful.
Well, it's like boxing. It's about matchups. And we matched up well with Buffalo. We saw them twice a week. So Pete had a pretty good game plan against them. They came out with their K-gun, 3 receivers, tight end, and running back, and whatever it was. And a lot of teams will go nickel, and we just went regular defense with them. But it also shows the power of energy and human emotion. And when it comes together, it can be quite a thing. And I think that's what we were going off of, was human emotion, trying to play for a common cause, which was Dennis. We knew we were watching, and we wanted to dedicate the game to him. And we did, and I can remember everybody, a lot of guys, I can't say everybody, after a game, instead of going back to Long Island, everybody went to Lenox Hill Hospital to give Dennis the game ball.
Wow, that you're 100% right. Just soaking that in, that energy, that positiveness about just pursuing a passion and dare to dream, and kind of placing all that into fruition. And as a young kid, and for so many Jet fans, that win gave us beyond inspiration. So we thank you for that game in particular.
It was good. It was good for us. It was good to get out there and release some of the emotions that had been built up all week, because as football players, we were used to orthopedic injuries and guys getting hurt. But this was a deal, life-changing deal for Dennis. But I believe everything fell into place, because I don't know if you know this, but the guy that did the surgery on Dennis's neck, he was a specialist from Europe, and he was visiting Lenox Hill, and he was scheduled to fly out that night, and he had his bags packed and was waiting for his ride to pick up, and they brought in Dennis, and they asked him, will you do this surgery? He said, of course. And so he stayed, and he did Dennis surgery. I think everything came into play. And throughout the week, we were getting good news about Dennis. He was moving his finger. He was cognitive. He was moving his finger, whatever. And it was just good news to report. And that game was accumulation of a good week. And Dennis said he's going to walk out of there, and he did.
And he absolutely did. What the encouragement that he brought. Now, with that being said, your last year with the New York Jets, I believe, was you left in 97 to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Right. And then you won a Super Bowl with the Broncos. But before going to the Broncos, what were the differences that you just felt right off the bat going to San Francisco, being with the Jets for such a long tenure? What did you learn? What did you see? Were your eyes opened even that much more to the NFL and how certain things should be ran?
I can't say, because once you're in the system, and I say Leon Hess was a good owner, because I can remember after all the hoopla had died down about Dennis Byrd. Dennis Byrd was one of my very best friends on the team in life. And in December, when it's kind of died down and Dennis was making progress and what have you, I was still going up there to see him. And I would always pass Leon Hess. He was up there every day seeing Dennis. So he was a good owner, but was he, and he gave us everything we needed to win. Let me say that too. But when I went to San Francisco, the first day at practice, Mr. DeBartolo was out there. Wow. He was around. The general manager was out there. That's the biggest thing that shocked me is seeing the owner at practice. And now he had his deal with Governor Edwards and he had to go away. But even Mr. York, when he came in, they were in the locker room every day. They were out on the field every day. And you can say what it was, but you got to show people how much you care. And they were showing how much they care. And this was their deal. Mr. Hess had other outside business interests, but this was their football team. And same with Mr. Boland. Mr. Boland was at every practice, rode the team plane with his, didn't fly in his own separate jet like Mr. Hess did. He rode on the team plane with this, rode on the team bus with it. If the team bus and plane was delayed, Mr. Boland was there with us. If we were in the weight room, he was on the Stairmaster. He was a really caring owner. That's the biggest thing. And then the whole culture of winning. It was a level of expectation not changing from year to year or with coach to coach.
Right.
It was their standard of excellence that they held through that permeated throughout the organization from all the way top to the equipment guy.
Wow. That to me is mind blowing. Being a Jet fan for such a long time, the only time that it's like spurts and sporadic moments in Jets history, like in '98 when Bill Parcells just put it all together and we actually faced your team. You were there at the AFC Championship game with Denver. How did you see the Jets from that perspective? It was
very good team, and Parcells had put it in his system. Because I was there the year before or 2 years before I got cut during training camp. But I knew Belichick, and I say that guy had you very prepared. He reminded me of Pete Carroll. And Parcells had his system. Some of the stuff that he did, Belichick emulated and throughout the league, of what he did and he had you prepared. So we went into that game, knowing that the Jets were going to be a formidable opponent that Sunday. But at the end of the day, I thought we had the better quarterback. And I thought that would make the difference. And we didn't have like a dominant defense, but we had a very good defense. Pete Carroll's system. Greg Robinson was our defense coordinator, and he was with Pete Carroll for up with at the Jets, for my run here, and that's why I went to Denver. But they were a very good team, and I was happy to beat them. But you know what? I was happy for the fans in Long Island. I was happy with the fans in New York because I know that they had some bad years, with the Jets, and now they were getting rewarded. And the next year, I thought, they were going to go on and go to the Super Bowl or go back to the AFC Championship game. But it's the NFL and nothing's guaranteed. And I think the first game against Baltimore, Vinny tore his Achilles heel. Yeah, so it happens.
Well, my next question is this, because I'm going to try to tie everything in. This is an all-in year for the New York Jets, especially with Aaron Rodgers at the helm. But hopefully everything goes as planned.
Knock on wood. Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. But that year that you were with Denver, what was that feeling like? I'm going to live vicariously through you right now. How was that feeling of winning a Super Bowl?
You know what? It was accumulation because that was my year 10. And I think the football gods had finally blessed me. And it was the best year of professional football because we had a 14-game winning streak. And it was the perfect locker room. And my first day there, I was rehabbing. I was in the training room and I was in the hot tub or the cold tub with John Elway. And he wasn't a superstar quarterback. You know, he was like John would talk to the first man in the roster all the way down to the 53-man roster. He treated us all the same. And he was just, you know, he set the tempo for it. And everybody got along. If everybody went out, we all went out. We always had this place we go to after the game called the Chop House. Everybody went to the Chop House. We were together as a team, and that's the best year I've had. And I believe all Super Bowl teams have that. I don't know if they have that closeness, but we were close, man. And I absolutely love those guys. I grew up in Denver, you know, so I was an Orange Crush fan until I was 12. Well, they were my second team. My first team was the Dallas Cowboys. My father made me a Cowboy fan.
Right.
And ironically, I moved to Dallas. So, but anyway, I digress. But it was just a great year. Everything came together. Terrell Davis had 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
John's last year, he was the MVP of the Super Bowl, and Shannon Sharp had a very good year, and our defense with Romanowski and Steve Atwater, it was just perfect for us.
Now, since you have retired, I normally ask a lot of ex-NFL players this question: how has the game changed or evolved for the better or not that great? How do you see it now since the last time that you had played?
Going into my 24th year, it's evolved. I think the NFL has made it safer for the players, but also when guys get together, they always talk about their not the lack of toughness, because even putting on the uniform or putting on the helmet, that's tough. But the difference is we used to report to training camp in the July or middle of July 20th or whatever, and we would go full pads 2 days all the way into that third preseason game. Right. Now, you know, you'd be lucky if they went full pads 2 times in a training camp. I had a teammate, Marvin Jones, that was doing an internship coaching with the Jets a few summers ago. And I asked him what the difference was. He said the lack of hitting, you know, and I said, well, how many times did you got to go full pads? He said, we went twice. And he said the guys were complaining about that. So, but has the game gotten safer for the players? Yes. But it's not like I played in the era, so you can see the delineation or the lines of demarcation, because I can say guys in the 60s and 70s couldn't play in today's era because they were too small, particularly the linemen. There's some quarterbacks who could play, you know, some skill guys who can play, of course. But the offensive, defensive linemen have gotten big, but they were no bigger when I was playing the game, especially towards my last year. You know, I was 6'6", 280. I could still play today, you know, so it hasn't evolved that much. But I think the game is still going to evolve, and it's not my dad's NFL. It's not the NFL I grew up with, because if you recall, remember Sports Illustrated Greatest Hits, you know, get a subscription to Sports Illustrated.
Sure.
That's no longer there, you know, so I think it's gotten safer. And it is what it is. I love the game of football. I love what is given to me. College football is changing, but the NFL, you know, it's evolving.
Got it. No, and thank you for breaking that down, because a lot of fans who have never played, you know, professionally, just like me, they have their opinions and they strongly have their perspectives on, oh, you know, the NFL is too soft, this and that. I'm like, don't say that. Like, you have never played.
The whole thing is it's easy to have courage and be a hero with another man's body, you know.
Well put. But exactly.
If I guarantee you, people don't realize the speed of the game, and if they were going to a sideline at an NFL game, they'll see that it hasn't much changed. And that's when people that have gone to an NFL game and were lucky enough, or they're in the press for the first year or whatever, and they're on the sideline and they see the speed of the game and how these guys are moving and hitting, It's not high school. It's not
No.
college. It's something. It's something else. You got to believe it to see it.
Living in Queens, New York, I used to work in Long Island, right by Hofstra, and I had a dream
Oh,
job at 18, at 19. It was wild. I would go early morning to watch the AM practice, and then in the afternoon. And yeah, you're 100% right. Even in practice, it was speed, speed, speed. I'm like, wow, man, these guys are like gladiators. You guys are just built so differently.
that's the difference that people don't realize. Like the speed of the game, and guys coming out of college, the quicker you're able to process that speed,
Mhm.
process that speed and play and have it as an afterthought, the quicker you are to be an NFL player. And some guys don't get it. So
Right.
because that's why the draft has a 50% success rate. Quarterbacks have the least amount of success rate or whatever, because you got to process all that.
Right.
Receivers, you got to process all that. D line, you got to process all that speed, and that's the difference, man. Is the speed of the game. Can recall being in the locker room with one of the linemen from Denver, Trevor Price, and he was bragging that he ran a 48 quarter, you know, in high school, and I was like, Trevor, like, look around, like, who didn't run that,
Right.
But he was like 6'5", like 270 running that, but I was like, Trevor, who didn't run that? You're not doing. People don't realize the speed of the game, and yeah, there were guys that my size, I could run a 4.7, but now at my size, they're running 4.4s and 4.5s. A few of the guys, but the speed of the game is something to behold.
That absolutely is. Now, I want to fast forward this to the expectations of the New York Jets. This year, let's preface it by, in the event there are no cataclysmic injuries to the quarterback position and many other positions as well, how far do you see this New York Jets club going this season on an all-in year, which we don't know what can happen in 2025, where Aaron Rodgers can say, I am done playing, but it seems like he's invested 100% into this team coming off of an Achilles injury, where it seems like with modern medicine, he's ahead of the game probably 3 to 4 months. He was ready to go back into action. Was it week 15 last year? Wild.
I think he's ahead of the game by 6 months. And I know the
Wow.
procedure he had. Kobe went over there and got his deal too, with the stem cells. But saying that, knock on wood, if the Jets stay healthy, and they can keep Aaron Rodgers protected, and it looked like Joe Douglas has gone out through free agency and the draft. I think he got the best with Fashanu. I think he got the best offensive lineman in the draft. I think the sky's the limit for the Jets. I like what they've done this offseason, and I love their draft. Just stay healthy. Just stay healthy. Do that, and we'll see. I think the expectations will come true that we had last season coming in here, but they don't need to play the expectations. They need to play to their own goals and team goals, and keep focus on that. And I think they can be successful, because I think the AFC can be had.
Yeah.
Buffalo has their issues with, they got to replace, very good receiving corps. I don't know if they did that. New England is there. I think it might come down to the Jets and Miami, and we always play Miami well, no matter what the record is and what have you. Just keep Aaron Rodgers upright, and with Mike Williams, with Wilson, I think, yeah, the sky's the limit, man. And with Bryce Hall, the two running backs that they got in the draft, they're not small guys. They're 6'1" and 6 feet tall. I think they have the weapons on offense, and I think we have a championship defense. We had one last year, but you can't be in the field all day. So I think the Jets fan are going to be very satisfied next year if they keep Aaron Rodgers upright and healthy. But even if he isn't, I think Tyrod Taylor can come in and hold the fort until he comes back, because I don't think he's going to have a cataclysmic injury again like that again. But if he misses a few games, I feel a lot better with Tyrod Taylor than I did last year with the quarterbacks that they had on the roster.
It's very humbling when you refer to the Jets as we. I love that. That means the Jets still have a special place in your heart then.
That's my home team. They're the one that's drafted me and gave me my opportunity in the NFL. And I think most guys, I played here for 8 years. I have 3 teams that I cheer for, but the Jets are first and foremost. The Dallas Cowboys and the Denver Broncos. Well, probably 4 and San Francisco in that order. But the Jets are first and foremost, and I'm invested in that deal, man, because I want to see them do well. I want them because I know how passionate the fans are. I want them to have success so New York can feel good and the Jet fans can feel good because we can take over this town and be at the forefront because I think the Giants are still going to try to figure it out this year. I don't think they're going to be as good as the Jets, and I'm just happy for the organization. Is it a perfect organization? No. But they're on the Aaron Rodgers program, and I think they can ride that to some respectability in the NFL.
Playing sometime in February next year, you think? Probably, maybe?
I can't say that. No, I can't do that. You still got Patrick Mahomes over there. And there are some teams that have improved in the AFC, but I think the Jets are going to be right there. I think it's going to be KC. I think it's going to be Baltimore. I think it's going to be Pittsburgh. I think it's going to be Miami, and the Jets are going to be in that mix. But it all comes down to maneuvering yourself and getting home field advantage. But maybe that defense doesn't care whether you're at home or on the road. I think you have a championship defense. So if they can get there, they have as good a chance as anybody to win. If they can get into the tournament, the playoffs, I think they have. And if they're in the playoffs, I think they have as good a chance as anybody.
See, this is where I want to kind of wrap it all up here. You were one of our special defensive players here with the New York Jets. What are your overall thoughts on the New York Jets defense? Do you think this offseason they've improved, or do you think they may have lost a step and maybe losing a Bryce Huff and actually trading for a Hassan Reddick, who that's his MO, just getting after the quarterback? How do you see this New York Jets defense under Robert Saleh and Ulbrich as defensive coordinator?
I think they've improved, and if you look at what's the kid they got from Canada, the CFL, runs a 4-4-4. Yeah, I think that was a beautiful pick. Yep. I think that kid never played college football, but he battled some adversity and whatever, and he overcame that. And I absolutely love that pick. So I think that kind of shores up the back end. Our front seven, with the pass rusher that we got, and the other free agent we got from San Francisco, I think it shores up our front seven, which was already a winner. And I think on our defense, out of the 11, you got 2 guys that are the best at their position, in the whole NFL. So I think the defense is a championship caliber defense, and I know offenses and all that, but defense still wins championships. And that's in every sport. Just like not to get it too off ahead, but the T-Wolves, their defense is outstanding, and that's why they got the defending champion on the ropes. Yep. I think if we can get into the tournament, our defense can carry us. When we get to the Super Bowl, we got a quarterback that can win the Super Bowl for us. He's not a bus driver. He can take over a game, throw for 400 yards, throw for 4 touchdowns in the playoffs or whatever, and get us there. We don't have a bus driver or Trent Dilfer, and no disrespect to Trent Dilfer, but we got a guy that can make a difference.
I absolutely love that. 100%. And that's the beauty of this defense. For the past 3 years, unfortunately, they did not have great quality play at the quarterback position. So they constantly had to be on the field over and over. And it's not like a bend, don't break defense. They get after you. And now they finally have, hopefully health-wise, with Rodgers on the field, putting up some points, they don't have to take the entire load of the game. I think it's going to make them possibly a top 2.
Listen, Aaron Rodgers puts up 20, 24 points. Our defense is not going to give up 24 points a game. So, but we're not going to have to outscore anybody. Right. Let me say that. We can win some games 17 or 14 or whatever it is, but I think we're going to score more than our opponents are because of our defense. And they're not going to be like, holding them to the first half, playing great defense, and they're going into halftime down 17-3, or 14-0, whatever it is. I think they're gonna feed off the offense, and they're gonna cause problems for a bunch of defenses offenses in this league.
I could not concur more with you. That's what I feel, and the majority of Jet fans and Jets Nation feel the same way. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you so much for coming onto our podcast and going through and down memory lane for so many Jet fans. And again, Marvin Washington, I appreciate you so much. Thank you. And where can fans find you? I'm mostly on Twitter at mwash52. And I talk about everything, but mostly sports. Mm-hmm. I said Twitter is like, a city, and I have a good neighborhood of friends and ex-coaches, ex-players, ex-military people that just love sports. And we just talk about sports there. I don't go too heavy during the season with the Jets, but I will comment on the Jets. But I'm just like an overall sports fan, just like everybody else that's listening to this. And that's where you can find me. So give me a follow, and we'll talk about sports. I love it. Absolutely. Again, to all the Jets Nation, thank you so much for watching. And again, pursue your passion, be fearless, believe in yourself, dare to dream, test your limits, be kind, stay humble, cherish today, find your purpose, never give up. Thank you so much, Marvin, for this amazing interview.
Thank you. Hey, don't forget about me during the season.
No, you're going to be a staple on here. All right.
Well, I appreciate you. I really appreciate you reaching out to me, and I wish you all the luck in the world.
I appreciate it. The very best. Okay. Go Jets.
Go Jets.